back. Like,
yeah, literally, I'm going to drive to Matthews and back, and I'm gonna be here all night.
Follow him in.
Oh my gosh.
It's one of those moments that stops you cold, the kind that makes you hold your breath and feel your heart sink straight into your stomach. Garrison Brown, the bright, funny, deeply kind son of Janelle and Kody Brown, is gone. His sudden death has left fans shattered, friends in shock, and his family facing a grief that most of us can't even imagine. But what's even more unsettling is the twist that no one saw coming. Instead of being allowed to rest in peace, Garrison's passing is being molded into yet another storyline for Sister Wives. A storyline. Can you believe that? A young man's life and his deepest pain turned into ratings bait for millions to consume like popcorn. What makes this even more gut-wrenching is that Garrison wasn't just another background character on the show. He was one of the few voices who dared to speak up, who refused to blindly follow Kody's demands, and who stood strong beside his siblings and his mom, Janelle. We watched his struggles unfold over the years. The tension with Kody, the fierce independence, the hurt that seemed to build up behind his smile. We saw all of it. And then, in his final moments, Garrison's last texts revealed a young man who missed the good days, who felt lost, who reached out in ways that would later haunt those he loved the most. Hey everyone, I'm Olivia, and welcome back to TLC's Sister Wives Secrets. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss the real stories behind the cameras. And I really want to hear your thoughts on this. Do you think it's right for TLC and Kody to keep filming after such a heartbreaking loss? Drop your comments below because this is something we need to talk about as a community. Garrison wasn't just another face in the Brown family's crowded living room. He stood out from the moment he started appearing on Sister Wives. A young man with a spark in his eyes, someone who clearly carried a big heart behind that big smile. We watched him grow from a teenager into a proud member of the National Guard, a huge accomplishment that showed his dedication and strength. When he put on that uniform, you could tell he carried a sense of pride that wasn't just about serving the country. It was about carving out his own identity, away from the chaos of his family's world. Even through the TV screen, you could feel that Garrison was different. He was sharp, funny, and never afraid to challenge Kody's ideas when he felt they were unfair. He wasn't the type to blend into the background or just go along with the crowd. He wanted his own space, his own life, and he fought for that independence in a family where following the father's lead was always expected. You could see the tension in scenes when he clashed with Kody over strict house rules, or when he refused to blindly support Robin. He became a symbol for viewers, a son who wouldn't be silenced just to keep up appearances. Fans saw him as the sweet one, the one who was always trying to keep the peace between his siblings, the one who would joke around and light up a room. But there was another layer beneath that. You could catch glimpses of it during quieter moments on the show. The sadness in his eyes when Kody criticized him or ignored his achievements. Garrison carried wounds that we didn't fully understand until much later. On the show, his struggles with mental health weren't openly discussed, but you could sense the loneliness creeping in. It was in the way he looked down when Kody would praise another child but not him, or the way he talked about feeling like an outsider. That feeling of being unseen, especially by a parent, can leave deep scars. Garrison wanted love and connection, and yet he was often met with coldness and harsh words instead of open arms. Through it all, he still managed to stay close to his siblings and especially to his mom, Janelle. Their bond was strong, and she was his biggest supporter, always trying to remind him of his worth. But even a mother's love sometimes isn't enough to erase the pain of feeling left behind by a father. For fans, watching Garrison's journey was both inspiring and heartbreaking, because while he fought so hard to be himself, you could sense the heavy loneliness he carried on his shoulders. Garrison's relationship with Kody was one of the most painful storylines to watch on Sister Wives. In the early days, there were glimpses of warmth between them. Kody used to proudly talk about his sons, and there were family scenes where Garrison seemed like just another kid trying to find his place in a massive, complicated family. But as time passed, things started to crack, and the distance between father and son only grew wider. A huge turning point came during the pandemic. Kody's strict COVID rules became a massive wedge not only in his marriages, but especially in his relationship with his older boys, including Garrison. Kody demanded near-total isolation, urging his children to stay home and avoid any social interactions. But Garrison was young, independent, and hungry for a normal life outside of his father's bubble. He was still working, trying to live like any young adult would, and he refused to let fear completely take over his life. Those tense discussions about COVID rules turned into explosive fights. We saw it on the show, Garrison and his brother Gabriel challenging Kody, questioning why they couldn't see friends or live their own lives. Kody viewed their resistance as disrespect, as if they were defying not just his wishes but his authority as their father. Garrison, on the other hand, saw it as standing up for his own mental health and freedom. Watching those scenes, you could feel the hurt radiating from both sides, but especially from Garrison, who seemed crushed that his dad wouldn't even try to understand him. Then came the added tension with Robin. She was often seen as Kody's favored wife, and for Garrison, she symbolized everything that was going wrong in their family. Garrison made it clear that he felt Robin was given special treatment, and he felt his father was prioritizing her and her children over the rest of the family. That frustration came out in raw moments on the show, moments when Garrison spoke his truth, even if it meant risking whatever fragile bond he still had with Kody. These conflicts weren't just small disagreements. They were deep, painful rifts that left scars. Garrison stopped visiting Kody and Robin's home altogether, creating a physical and emotional distance that became impossible to ignore. In one episode, we saw Janelle stand by her sons, defending their choices and supporting their need for independence. But Kody didn't take it well. Instead of reaching out, he withdrew even more, blaming Garrison and Gabriel for the breakdown instead of looking inward. It was heartbreaking to see. For Garrison, that estrangement wasn't just about rules or power struggles. It was about wanting to be seen, to be respected, to be loved for who he was, rather than being expected to fall in line without question. You could see in his eyes that he still craved connection, even as he pushed Kody away. Garrison wanted a father who would meet him halfway, who would show up for him the way Janelle always did. But on the show, we watched as Kody repeatedly chose control over compassion, creating a wall between himself and a son who just wanted to be accepted. Those episodes left fans angry and deeply sympathetic toward Garrison, who was trying so hard to carve out his own path in a family that demanded obedience. The most painful part is that so many viewers could relate to Garrison. That longing for a parent's love, mixed with the courage to stand up for yourself, resonated deeply, and it made his final days feel even more tragic, knowing how much he carried inside and how long he had been trying to fight for a space of his own. When the details from the police report came out, it felt like a wave of heartbreak crashing over everyone who had ever watched Garrison grow up on Sister Wives. It wasn't just the fact that he was gone. It was the quiet, lonely moments leading up to his final act that truly broke people's hearts. According to the official report on March 4th, Garrison had been exchanging messages with his mom, Janelle, between around 8:34 p.m. and 8:39 p.m. After that, he suddenly stopped replying. Those few minutes held the final direct connection between a mother and her son, a thread of hope that was tragically cut too soon. Later that night, at 8:45 p.m., Janelle reached out to other people to check on him because she knew something wasn't right. That motherly instinct, that gut feeling, she acted on it immediately. It's impossible not to feel her desperation in those moments, imagining her sitting by her phone, hoping for a ping back from her boy. Then there were the texts Garrison sent to a work group chat before he went silent. One of those messages read, "I want to hate you for sharing the good times, but I can't. I miss those days." Those words hit like a punch to the chest. It's such a raw, vulnerable confession of someone clinging to the happy memories while feeling lost in the present. It was a final whisper of the pain that had been building inside him for so long, the kind of message that sticks with you long after you've read it. His roommates also played a huge part in piecing together those final hours. One roommate shared that Garrison seemed okay earlier that evening when they were both in the kitchen. Garrison even made some bagel bites. It was a moment that seemed so ordinary on the surface, but now it feels haunting. Another roommate described Garrison's struggles with alcohol, explaining that he had been drinking heavily and had talked about wanting to stop. The roommates didn't think he seemed intoxicated that night, which only adds to the tragic mystery of how fast everything spiraled. Janelle told officers that she wished she had gotten Garrison help sooner. That line alone is enough to shatter anyone's heart. She carried the weight of wondering what more she could have done, a question no parent ever wants to face. When fans heard these details, the collective reaction was pure devastation. Social media exploded with messages of love, support, and sorrow. People were angry, confused, and heartbroken. The final texts weren't just words on a screen. They were a window into a young man's final moments, a soul crying out for connection one last time. For viewers who had come to love Garrison, these revelations felt deeply personal. They had watched his life unfold episode after episode, year after year, and suddenly they were confronted with the raw truth behind the scenes. It wasn't scripted drama or a family squabble over chores. It was real, painful, and final. When news broke that TLC would continue filming after Garrison's death, it felt like a slap in the face to so many fans who had followed this family for years. We're talking about a young man's life, his real struggles, his final moments. And instead of giving the family space to grieve, the cameras kept rolling. It's a decision that feels cold and calculated, a reminder that in reality TV, the show always seems to matter more than the people living inside it. We've seen this pattern before with sister wives. Think back to Mary's catfishing scandal. When she was at her lowest, feeling betrayed and completely alone, the show didn't hold back. The cameras were right there, catching every tear, every awkward family meeting, every painful confession. Then there were the divorces. Christine leaving Kody, Janelle deciding to step away, the breakdown of a family that once prided itself on unity. Each of these moments was packaged up and presented to viewers like a dramatic movie plot, with little room for true privacy or healing away from the public eye. The decision to film the aftermath of Garrison's passing raises a huge ethical question. Where is the line between storytelling and human decency? Should a family be forced to relive their deepest pain in front of millions just because they signed a contract? These are not fictional characters. These are real people facing unimaginable loss, and yet TLC seems to see it as another opportunity to boost ratings and keep viewers hooked. What makes this even more complicated is Kody's role in shaping the narrative. Over the years, we've watched him spin situations to protect his image or justify his decisions. During the COVID conflicts, he painted himself as a caring father, just trying to keep everyone safe, while many fans saw his rules as controlling and unfair. When Christine left, he was quick to shift blame, presenting himself as the victim rather than acknowledging the pain he caused. Now imagine this same pattern playing out with Garrison's story. There's a real risk that the show might frame his struggles as just another family disagreement or chalk it up to teenage rebellion, instead of acknowledging the deep hurt and mental health battles that were truly going on. There's also a fear that Kody might use this tragedy to repair his broken image, to appear as the grieving father who tried his best instead of addressing his role in the estrangement. Polygamist culture has always emphasized presenting a perfect, harmonious family image. over and over, we've seen the Browns avoid showing the raw, messy parts of their lives, preferring to hide pain behind smiles and awkward family dinners. By controlling the narrative, they can protect the culture and maintain the illusion that everything is fine. But Garrison's death shattered that illusion, revealing cracks that no amount of editing can fully cover up. It's gut-wrenching to think that instead of honoring Garrison's memory privately, his death might become just another cliffhanger, another moment for fans to discuss over popcorn. Viewers are left asking, does anyone deserve to have their pain turned into profit? Or should some moments simply be too sacred for cameras? For many fans, this is where the line has finally been crossed. The idea of monetizing grief, of using a young man's last words and final moments to sell a show, feels not just wrong, but deeply disrespectful. Garrison deserved better. He deserved a father who would fight for him, not a storyline that might be twisted to protect someone else's reputation. He deserved privacy, peace, and love, not a headline or a ratings boost. When the news of Garrison's death broke, fans were devastated. This wasn't just another reality TV moment to them. It felt like losing someone they had grown up with, someone they had watched navigate the rough, messy, very real world of the Brown family. People loved Garrison because he was genuine. He didn't sugarcoat his feelings. He didn't pretend everything was perfect, and he stood up for his siblings when no one else would. The outpouring of love for Janelle and Gabriel was overwhelming. Viewers saw how hard Janelle fought for her kids, how she always defended them against Kody's harsh words and Robin's favoritism. Fans could see that she was the steady, supportive force in Garrison's life. As for Gabriel, people rallied around him too. Watching him lose his brother, someone who had been not just a sibling but a best friend, was heartbreaking beyond words. Fans flooded social media with messages of comfort, telling Janelle and Gabriel that they weren't alone, that the audience saw them and stood with them. On the flip side, the anger at Kody and TLC reached a boiling point. Fans were furious that the show would keep rolling the cameras and pushing a narrative right after such a traumatic loss. Many felt that Kody's constant need to control the story was part of what drove Garrison to feel so unseen and unheard. The idea that his struggles might now be packaged and sold as a must-watch storyline was enough to make people sick. There was also a deep fear that the truth about Garrison's pain might get glossed over or twisted to protect certain images. Fans worried that instead of showing the reality of his depression, his battles with alcohol, and his feelings of isolation, the show might simply blame it on teenage rebellion or sweep it under the rug as a sad footnote. They didn't want Garrison remembered as just another plot twist. They wanted him remembered as a brave, funny, loving young man who deserved so much more than he got. For many, this moment cemented their distrust of Kody and TLC and left them questioning just how far reality TV would go for a storyline. The Brown family always loved to talk about family unity and togetherness. But behind those smiling group photos and carefully staged dinners, there was a deep, unspoken pressure to maintain a perfect image. In polygamous culture, especially the one the Browns came from, there's this strong idea that your family has to look flawless to the outside world. The moment any crack starts to show, it feels like the entire foundation might crumble. For years on Sister Wives, we watched as the Browns bent over backward to present themselves as one big happy family, even when there were obvious tensions: Mary's loneliness, Christine's feelings of neglect, Janelle quietly holding it all together. The family kept insisting they were strong and united. Instead of dealing openly with emotional wounds, they often brushed them aside, chalking up problems to misunderstandings or growing pains. This same pattern of hiding pain to protect an image played out over and over. Christine stayed silent for years before finally deciding to leave. Mary hung on to a marriage that was clearly over, afraid of what leaving would say about her faith and family loyalty. And through it all, Kody continued to push his narrative of a man trying to lead a perfect family, never truly owning up to the damage left in his wake. Now imagine being Garrison in that environment, a young man who saw the contradictions every single day, a father saying one thing on camera while doing another at home. Garrison was outspoken, independent, and brave enough to call out the hypocrisy. But in a culture that values obedience and appearance over raw truth, that bravery wasn't celebrated. Instead, it made him the problem child, the one who wouldn't fall in line. The pressure to hide struggles and keep up the family's spotless image must have been crushing for him. He wasn't just fighting to be seen as an individual, he was fighting against an entire system that taught him to put on a happy face no matter what was tearing him up inside. He saw his mother constantly trying to smooth things over, his father prioritizing control and loyalty over genuine connection, and he probably felt more and more invisible each time his voice was dismissed. For Garrison, this wasn't just a clash with Kody. It was a battle against an entire belief system that taught him his pain didn't matter if it threatened the family's reputation. And that kind of emotional isolation can leave scars so deep, they're almost impossible to heal. Losing Garrison wasn't just another dramatic headline or a shocking moment for TV ratings. It was a real, painful tragedy that shattered a family and left a deep mark on all of us who watched him grow up. Garrison was so much more than a storyline. He was a son, a brother, a friend, and a young man who tried to find his place in a family and a culture that often refused to see him for who he really was. When we think about Garrison, let's remember the warmth in his smile, his fierce loyalty to his siblings, and the strength it took to stand up for himself even when it meant standing alone.